Yes, good afternoon, guys, all of you. Good morning. You all are seeing this in the morning. Very nice. So we have finished off with a beautiful topic called as nutrition, the digestive system. And now we are starting off with a fantastic concept called as respiration. Of course, Vishal sir taught you respiration in humans, which was about lungs and how oxygen transfer takes place in the body. This is cellular respiration, which in your NCRT is given as respiration in plants. A beautiful topic. You all must have read a little in school about this, that in a cell, sugar breaks down to produce ATPs, energy, by a process called as glycolysis, Krebs cycle. थोड़ा थोड़ा सुना था स्कूल में, समझ में थोड़ा आया था, थोड़ा नहीं आया था. But this is a beautiful concept. One of my favorite chapters is this. It is tough. It's really tough, and that is the reason it is my favorite. So let's understand this topic in detail. So we will analyze everything about respiration. And once the lecture is over today, I'm going to send you a WhatsApp file of all the chapters, of all the notes that we have done today. Another good suggestion I have for you, please make a separate folder in your mobile and transfer and name the folder as lectures. Make one folder of Vishal sir's lectures, one folder of Arif sir's lecture, and one my folder separately in your mobile. And all the lectures of Vishal sir, Arif sir, mine, in a proper sequence you transfer from your group into that. So later on, आपको अगर कुछ revision करना हो, it will help you in revising. And one more thing, today when you transfer respiration lecture, along with it, I'm transferring you a PDF file or a WhatsApp file of all the slides that we have today. उसको भी respiration के नीचे transfer कर देना. So you will see the lecture. उसी के नीचे you will get the photographs or the PDF file which I'm sending today. Chalo, let's begin with the topic, all of you. All right. So we have this beautiful introduction. Where do we get all our energy from? It all starts with the help of sunlight. Sunlight falls on leaves. Sunlight falls on leaves, and leaves के अंदर होता है a pigment called as chlorophyll. Chlorophyll converts sunlight into ATPs, adenosine triphosphate. सुना होगा energy currency. And the ATPs using chloroplast convert into glucose. And if you've heard of it, school में शायद सुना रहेगा, conversion of sunlight into ATPs is called as light reaction. And conversion of ATPs into glucose is called as dark reaction. And ग्लूकोज इस तरह से बन जाता है. This glucose further becomes starch and sunlight इस तरह से पहले लीव्स में क्लोरोफिल की मदद से एटीपी बनते हैं. ATP then in the chloroplast becomes glucose and sunlight glucose में बन गया है which gets converted into starch. That process is called as photosynthesis, which I will teach you superb chapter after this chapter called as respiration. Now, what happens to starch? समझो हम लोग लीफ को उठाते हैं या हम लोग आलू खाते हैं या हम लोग ब्रेड खाते हैं. It has in it starch. Starch in our mouth with the help of salivary amylase, and then in our intestine with the help of pancreatic amylase gets converted into maltose, जो अभी अभी किया है हमने, and then maltase acts on maltose and converts it into glucose. This glucose then undergoes a process called as glycolysis. सुना है स्कूल में? इसे glycolysis कहते हैं. And glucose will break down by glycolysis, which will further enter mitochondria. ये तो स्कूल में पढ़ाई है. Are called powerhouses of the cell, and they get in mitochondria is taking place a cycle called as Krebs cycle, and Krebs cycle converts everything in the glucose into ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and that process of conversion of starch into maltose, maltose into glucose, and then in the cell glucose is absorbed and assimilated in the cell. अभी अभी किया है. और सेल के अंदर first takes place glycolysis, which actually takes place in the cytoplasm of the cell. Then takes place Krebs cycle, which takes place in the mitochondria of the cell. And then it forms ATP. This process of converting starch into ATP is a process called as respiration. And that is what we are going to learn in this chapter. And ATPs get converted into mechanical energy, which is for muscle movements in our body. And ATPs also become electrical energy, which in our neurons will create electrical impulses. And that means, where is our mechanical energy and electrical energy coming from? ATP. Where does ATP come from? Glucose. Where does glucose actually come from? Starch. Where does starch actually come from? Glucose. Where does glucose come from? ATP. Where has ATP come from? Sunlight. So sunlight is what we are using for mechanical energy, electrical energy. We are actually dependent on the great sun for everything in our life. Every muscle movement is because of sunlight. every electrical impulse in our brain is because of sunlight. Every movement, every thought, आप लोग ये सुन रहे हो, समझ रहे हो, your brain is active because of ATPs, which has actually come from sunlight. Your memory is because of ATPs, which has come from sunlight. तो रोज सुबह सूर्य नमस्कार करो, हाथ जोड़ के, सूर्य भगवान आपकी वजह से मेरा शरीर चल रहा है, आपकी वजह से मैं सोच पा रहा हूं, आपकी वजह से मेरी मेमोरी है, जो है आप हो, आपके वजह से मेरी जिंदगी चल रही है. Beauty of the great sun. We are completely dependent on sunlight by this beautiful process, first called as photosynthesis and then called as respiration. What a concept. लाइफ में कभी सोचा नहीं रहेगा. चलिए थोड़ा आगे बढ़ते हैं. सर एटीपी, एटीपी स्कूल से पढ़ते आ रहे हैं, is a molecule of energy. What exactly is an ATP? ATP is actually called as adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate has a structure like this. This is the structure of an ATP. होता क्या ATP के अंदर? ध्यान से सुनना. It has something called a nitrogen base. ये nitrogen base है, वो यहां है. And it has a sugar. वो sugar यहां है. And it has phosphates. And as a matter of fact, 3 phosphates are present. 3 phosphate है. So नाइट्रोजन बेस है, नाइट्रोजन बेस है, शुगर है एंड 3 फॉस्फेट है. ये रहे. द नाइट्रोजन बेस इज अ double ring molecule. Double ring molecule made of 2 rings. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. 2 rings. And it is made up of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen and nitrogen. So carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, which means it is organic. And it also has nitrogen, and that reason we call it as a nitrogen base. And this double ring nitrogen base is called as a purine. Double ring nitrogen base is called purine. School में सुना है purines are of 2 types, adenine and guanine. सुना है ये? Purines are of 2 types, adenine and guanine. तो ATP में कौन सा प्यूरिन है? Adenine. ATP में प्यूरिन है adenine. So which is the double ring here? Double ring कौन सा है? Adenine. Adenine is the double ring. Attached to adenine is the sugar. The sugar is a sugar called as ribose sugar. What is the sugar called as? Ribose sugar. तो ये जो sugar है, ये कौन सा sugar है? Ribose sugar, which is chemically C5H10O5. In the sugar, there are 5 carbons, there are 10 hydrogens and 5 oxygens. So 5 carbon है, 10 hydrogen है, 5 oxygen है. And this is a C5H10O5, which is a sugar. Along with the nitrogen base called adenine and the sugar, ribose sugar called C5H10O5, ribose sugar are attached to it 3 phosphates. Now ये important है, बहुत ध्यान से सुनना. Phosphates are in the form of 3 molecules of phosphoric acid. तो ये तीनों कौन है? ये तीनों है phosphoric acid, which are also called as H3PO4. H3PO4, phosphoric acid, which is also referred as IP. IP, inorganic phosphate. What is IP called? Inorganic phosphate. And नाइट्रोजन बेस हो गया, शुगर हो गया, 3 फॉस्फेट हो गए, दैट इज एटीपी. अब ध्यान से सुनना, एक नाइट्रोजन बेस और एक शुगर प्लस अगर 2 फॉस्फेट है, दो फॉस्फेट है, देन इट इज कॉल्ड एडीपी, एडिनोसिन डाइफॉस्फेट. तो adenine plus sugar, adenine and sugar is collectively called adenosine. Adenine plus sugar is called as adenosine plus 2 phosphates. 2 phosphate है, it is called ADP, adenosine diphosphate. समझो और एक फॉस्फेट उसके साथ आ जाता है, तो 2 फॉस्फेट के साथ तीसरा फॉस्फेट भी आ जाता है, देन दैट इज कॉल्ड एडिनोसिन ट्राइफॉस्फेट. एडिनोसिन ट्राइफॉस्फेट. एंड ध्यान से, बिटवीन देम इज प्रेजेंट एनर्जी. ये फॉस्फेट्स के बीच में एनर्जी स्टोर होती है, एंड दैट एनर्जी इज इन द फॉर्म ऑफ किलो कैलोरीज. एनर्जी स्टोर होती है इन द फॉर्म ऑफ किलो कैलोरीज, एंड दैट इज द रीजन एटीपी इज कॉल्ड एज एनर्जी करेंसी ऑफ द सेल. What is ATP called as? Energy currency of the cell. Where exactly is the energy present? So, between the first and the second phosphate is found 7.3 kilocalorie of energy. So once again, ये है first phosphate और ये है second phosphate. फर्स्ट फॉस्फेट और सेकंड फॉस्फेट के बीच में देयर इज 7.3 किलो कैलोरी ऑफ एनर्जी, बट दैट बॉन्ड इज क्वाइट अ स्ट्रॉन्ग बॉन्ड. ये बॉन्ड बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग होता है. सो एडेनाइन प्लस sugar, adenosine, plus 2 phosphates with a strong bond in between, which is called adenosine diphosphate. ये bond बहुत strong होता है between the two phosphates. So adenosine diphosphate is very, very strong and stable. और आपके साइटोप्लाज्म में, माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया में एडीपी, एडिनोसिन डाइफॉस्फेट घूमते रहते हैं as very stable molecule. Now what will happen? ध्यान से, between the second and the third phosphate, which is also called H3PO4 or phosphoric acid, also called inorganic phosphate, between the second and the third phosphate, 7.3 kilocalorie is present. 7.3 kilocalorie is present. तो सेकंड और थर्ड के बीच में कितना किलो कैलोरी है? 7.3। फर्स्ट और सेकंड के बीच में कितना था? फर्स्ट और सेकंड के बीच में 7.3। सेकंड और थर्ड के बीच में कितना है? 7.3। दोनों के बीच में 7.3 एंड दोनों के बीच में 7.3 एंड नाउ ध्यान से दैट बॉन्ड इज अ वीक बॉन्ड। तो सेकंड और थर्ड का जो बॉन्ड है इज अ वीक बॉन्ड। दिस वन सेकंड एंड थर्ड का बॉन्ड जो है इज अ वीक बॉन्ड। फर्स्ट एंड सेकंड का स्ट्रॉन्ग बॉन्ड था, इट वाज एडिनोसिन डाइफॉस्फेट। एडिनोसिन डाइफॉस्फेट स्टेबल है, बट जब थर्ड फॉस्फेट सेकंड फॉस्फेट को अटैच करता है, एनर्जी सेम है 7.3 किलो कैलोरी, बट इट इज अ वीक बॉन्ड, इट इज रिलेटिवली अ वीक बॉन्ड। नाउ ध्यान से सुनना, when glucose breaks, yeah, sorry all of you, when glucose breaks called catabolism, जब ग्लूकोज ब्रेक होता है called catabolism, energy stored in the glucose is released in the form of heat। जब एक ग्लूकोज टूटता है ना, तो उसमें बहुत सारे बॉन्ड्स होते हैं, C6H12O6। तो कार्बन कार्बन बॉन्ड होता है, और ये केमिस्ट्री में स्कूल में पढ़ा है, कार्बन कार्बन के बीच में जो बॉन्ड होता है, देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ एनर्जी कॉल्ड बॉन्ड एनर्जी। तो कार्बन कार्बन बॉन्ड में बहुत सारी बॉन्ड एनर्जी होती है। कार्बन हाइड्रोजन बॉन्ड होता है, कार्बन ऑक्सीजन बॉन्ड होता है, बिकॉज ग्लूकोज इज C6H12O6। 6 कार्बन, 12 हाइड्रोजन, 6 ऑक्सीजन, 1 ग्लूकोज मॉलिक्यूल। तो वो जब टूटेगा तो कार्बन कार्बन बॉन्ड टूटेगा, बहुत एनर्जी उसमें से निकलेगी। कार्बन हाइड्रोजन बॉन्ड टूटेगा, बहुत एनर्जी उसमें से निकलेगी। कार्बन ऑक्सीजन बॉन्ड टूटेगा, हाइड्रोजन ऑक्सीजन बॉन्ड टूटेगा, एंड ऑल दैट बॉन्ड एनर्जी is released in the form of heat, and unit of heat is called as kilocalories. Unit of heat is called as kilocalories. And now ध्यान से, in the cell cytoplasm and mitochondria are found lots of freely circulating एडिनोसिन डाइफॉस्फेट। या जैसे मैंने अभी बताया, एडिनोसिन डाइफॉस्फेट फ्रीली सर्कुलेटिंग होते हैं, विच इज एडेनाइन प्लस राइबोस शुगर प्लस विच इज कॉल्ड एडिनोसिन, एंड 2 phosphates instead of 3. So we have adenine, ribose sugar, and 2 phosphates instead of 3. When glucose breaks to release energy in the form of heat, kilocalorie, 1 adenosine diphosphate combines with 7.3 kilocalories of energy. 7.3 kilocalories of energy and a molecule of H3PO4 to form a molecule of ATP. ध्यान से, जब ग्लूकोज टूटता है, it releases energy, and 1 ADP combines with 7.3 kilocalorie. ग्लूकोज में से बहुत एनर्जी लिबरेट होती है, और साइटोप्लाज्म में और माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया में एडिनोसिन डाइफॉस्फेट घूमते रहते हैं, दे आर स्टेबल। एंड ग्लूकोज जब एनर्जी लिबरेट करती है, एडिनोसिन डाइफॉस्फेट उसमें से 7.3 किलो कैलोरी पकड़ लेती है एंड कंबाइंस विद 1 phosphate, which we remember is phosphoric acid. H3PO4 और इनऑर्गेनिक फॉस्फेट, एंड ये है एडेनोसिन डाइफॉस्फेट, और एक फॉस्फेट उसके साथ जुड़ जाएगा. वन मोर फॉस्फेट विल कंबाइन विथ इट, एंड बीच में कितनी एनर्जी ट्रैप हो जाएगी? 7.3 किलो कैलोरी, and it forms now a molecule of adenosine triphosphate. इस तरह से एटीपीज बनते हैं. चलो, I hope you've understood this. Very beautiful logic. This is the first part of the session. Just read this well. I'm sending you the PDF file, and then after reading it, then proceed to the second part of the lecture. Okay? See you all soon.